We place the first gift here, the second here, and the third here at the very large opening, about 10 yards in front of the very large opening. The gift would be here. The opening would be back here, hidden ever so slightly. The green you see here, not the green arrow, but where the green arrow is pointing, is bright moss on top of the large boulder, under which is the opening, large enough for me, a full-size man, to enter. As we watch for movement in the background, I'm going to explain to you where we are and why so many cannot see what clearly the rest of us can, and why there are those who can't hear what the rest of us can hear. We are high atop the mountain above my homestead at a place we recently found that I've chosen to call the Hive, because of the fact from here to the top of the mountain there's a series of caves, tunnels, sinkholes underneath these giant limestone boulders. Some of these openings, as you saw as we placed the gifts, are only large enough for raccoons, skunks, possums. They get larger and smaller throughout. Some are large enough for a fully grown man, such as my size, to enter, such as the opening where we left the last gift. A lot of folks come to this channel and they say that those of us who claim to see he, she, it, or they are seeing what we want to. I'm here to give the argument that those who cannot see he, she, it, or they, at times in our videos when he, she, it, or they have clearly been visible, is because those folks see what they want to as well. They believe it to be a leaf, a shadow, a limb moving in the wind. Why, it certainly couldn't be he, she, it, or they. Why is that? I'm going to use my personal vehicle as an example as to explain how the naysayers are also seeing what they want to see, even though what is clearly in front of them is not what they claim it to be. I have a Toyota Sequoia. It is the largest SUV Toyota makes. It's called their luxury SUV. Is mine luxurious? Not really. It's a 2003 model, 17 years old as of this recording, with 176,000 miles on it. But I'll tell you what I find luxurious about it is the fact that it's paid for, and it's been paid for since day one when I bought it 5 years ago. $7,500 cash, paid cash, cashier's check from my bank, but I haven't had a car payment on it. I'm just allergic to car payments. I have not had one since I paid off my first car that I had to finance after I got out of college because I had no credit, I had no money. When I bought it and paid for it twice over 5 years because of interest, I promised myself I would never have a car payment again, and over the last 20 years I haven't. I've kept that promise to myself. So it's clearly a Toyota Sequoia. It's got the Toyota emblem on the front grille, looks like the Taurus sign On the back, across the back panel that opens up above the tailgate, it says Sequoia. No way to see that it is anything but a Toyota Sequoia unless somebody wanted to see it as something differently. And I'm going to give you two examples of two people that have to demonstrate why so many naysayers see leaves, twigs in the wind, and shadows when clearly it may be something else they're seeing. I have a friend. She's a woman here in the area. Many years ago, I lived in this area. Then I moved away for about 8 years, and then I came back. When I lived here originally, this lady and myself loved to get together and go mountain biking, running, kayaking. She was very outdoorsy, very fit, as was I. Spent a lot of time together. Our relationship was always platonic. It was never anything but platonic. She was divorced, I was divorced, but we were bosom buddies. That's where it ended. Neither of us ever tried to cross a line because I was never attracted to her, she was never attracted to me. It was purely platonic. In our friendly, fun, platonic relationship, we would go out and we would mountain bike up mountains steeper than this one, getting all muddy, throwing mud all over our backs, getting wet in the rivers kayaking, racing each other. And we would always say that we were never going to get married again. We promised that to ourselves, we promised it to each other. We agreed that if we ever were going to be dumb enough to get married again, we'd both simply go out and find somebody we didn't like and buy them a house. Well, as I said, I left the area for 8 years, came back, and when I came back, I brought my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our darling son with me. I ran into my old friend who kept her word. She's still not married. And we were standing there in a parking lot in front of our Toyota Sequoia, catching up for just a few minutes, and I could tell this old friend of mine, she kind of felt a little bit betrayed because I reneged on my promise. And she said, well, Kevin, you've got a beautiful family. Your wife's beautiful, your son's beautiful, and I see you've got the Dodge minivan to go with all of it. And I said, you know, her name, and I said, this is not a Dodge minivan. It's a Toyota Sequoia. And she says, oh, it's not a Dodge minivan. What kind of minivan is it? I said, listen to me. This is not a minivan. This is a sport utility vehicle. And she looks at it, and you can see it register that I guess he's right. I guess this is a Toyota Sequoia. The thing weighs, I don't know, 3,000 pounds. It's as big as a baby blue whale. It's huge. It was right in front of her. Yet what she saw was a Dodge minivan, because that's what she wanted to see, because that went in the little box of the married guy with the wife and the kids. She was wanting to put me in a box. Well, here's the problem with putting people in boxes, at least those of us who refuse to live inside boxes or stay in our boxes when people want to put us there, because we jump out of the box. I personally get rid of the box. I got rid of the box years ago. But when we jump out of that box, those people who want to put us in those boxes, they look in, they can't see us, they can't find it. They can't find us in the box. They pick that box up and they shake it and they hold it up to their faces to look in that box. And you know what they've done? They've taken that box in which they want to put others and they've turned it into blinders for themselves. When they are so convinced that they know things that just ain't so, they can't see the reality around them because of the blinders. Get rid of the box, people. Don't stay in a box, and don't put others there either. Second example, same thing. My very large, very clearly marked Toyota Sequoia. 4 years or so ago, after we bought our homestead, people were coming by, what do I call them? Information gatherers, curiosity seekers. Who are these new people? How much can we learn about these new people in 10 minutes or less so that we can tell others what we know about them? You know what I'm getting at. Be leery about the first neighbor to bring you an apple pie, so on and so forth. Well, one gentleman we're getting to know each other very briefly, and he asked where I'm from originally. Well, this is something I've gotten used to. I'm from Appalachia. I grew up in Appalachia, and I've spent my entire life since I left Appalachia more than 20 years ago being laughed at and having people deduct IQ points immediately upon hearing that I'm from Appalachia. So I was prepared for it. I told him, and as I expected, he threw his head back in laughter. Ha 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 ha, so you grew up in Appalachia. That's how you can tell the difference, by the way, of people who are from Appalachia and people who aren't. If you're from there, it's pronounced Appalachia. If you're not, it's Appalachia or Appalachia. If you're not from there and you're highly educated. Kind of like people from Missouri. You might think of them as being from Missouri, but they know they're from Missouri. At any rate, this guy's laughing. He's deducting any IQ points he had attributed to me before this, after he found out where I'm from. And he makes a comment, because my vehicle was there, my Toyota Sequoia. He makes some sort of comment about my Bronco, my Ford Bronco. I think it had something to do with the firewood in the background. You cut your own wood, you haul it with your Ford Bronco. Do you have a trailer that you use to haul that firewood with your Ford Bronco? And I'm thinking Ford Bronco, and I say, oh, this is a Toyota Sequoia. He's like, whatever. And he keeps talking, telling me about how important he is and all these things. And later he mentions again something about my Bronco. He said it looked like it had been well kept for an older model. I didn't waste my time pointing out that it was not a Ford Bronco, but that it was a Toyota Sequoia, because this guy already had his mind made up. I wasn't going to confuse him with any facts. As he sees it, I'm a dumb hillbilly from Appalachia. I drive a Ford Bronco. He put me in that box. I may have jumped right out of it, but he picked it up and in looking for me, put on the blinders. So folks, you know, it's like a great man once said, it's not that so many people don't know. It's just that so many things they do know just ain't so. We've got to make sure we don't fall into those traps. Any and all of us. Because if we do, we too will see what we want to see. We may be berating others for claiming to see he, she, it, or they in the background, who really may be seeing or potentially hearing he, she, it, or they in the foreground, the whole time thinking that what we know we see is something it may or may not be.